Doesn't matter which.
Okay.
Thank you very much for coming today. So we will get you to introduce yourself and name any organization you're representing, if any. And following that, you will have 5 minutes, and then we'll have 5 minutes of questions from MLAs. Go ahead.
All right. Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. My name is Colleen Arcturus McIsaac, and my pronouns are they, them. And I'm here as a Nova Scotian based in Chibouctouc, Halifax, Chiboucto. I'm also a queer person, an artist, a bridge driver, a taxpayer, and a parent of a young child who I didn't mean to have here with me today, but my time slot was at the same time my partner's working, and I had to pick them up from daycare. That's why I wasn't here before, so apologies. So I am concerned about this because I'm here on behalf of my child, so it actually is appropriate that they ended up here with me today, and on behalf of all Nova Scotian children, because I'm concerned for the world that waits for them if measures such as this bill are passed. So I did take the time to read through Bill 198, and though I wish there was a way for the public to respond more directly to the proposed budget itself, I do appreciate the opportunity to speak to this Financial Measures Act. And also, thank you for clauses 2 to 51. It is wild to me that we're only now substituting male-presuming language with gender-neutral language, but I'm really glad it's happening. That's great. As others have also noted today, the way that the government has put forward these financial measures in an omnibus bill, combining disparate acts and policy issues, seems like a way to push through a lot of changes that have wide and deep implications for lots of Nova Scotians, without giving citizens a fulsome opportunity to learn about and speak to these proposed changes. Although, of course, I appreciate this forum here. So I'm concerned about this bill continuing what appears to me to be the government's interest in eroding our democracy. And so I am particularly interested, I don't know if this is allowed, but to speaking to the members of the PC party who are on this committee, so just please listen to what I have to say. You don't have to fall in line with a premier who's mismanaging this so poorly. Your constituents do deserve better. From the perspective of a parent and a Nova Scotian, there are so many aspects of this bill that are concerning to me. Clauses 56 to 61, 112 to 124, among others, seem to be put in place to continue the nonsensical war on treaty rights that our premier has put in place, targeting Mi'kmaq communities. And to have so effectively destroyed the relationship with the sovereign nation on whose unceded land we are sitting is not only disappointing, but shameful. How can I teach my child that we are all treaty people when our elected officials in this government seem to disagree? Exactly. This act concerns gypsum mining, which is often linked to uranium exploration, and to that end, clauses 93 to 98 concern me greatly. If the minister is empowered to permit commercial activities without any other accountabilities, how can Nova Scotians ensure that vital provincial parks and other protected spaces will be respected and protected? And similarly, the powers granted in 93 to 98, the powers granted to the minister without oversight or safeguards is quite worrying. The unprecedented powers that the government is giving itself to open up these long and rightly long closed pathways to short-term extractive gain for long-term pain will undoubtedly harm the health of our children and communities. We know we're living in a climate crisis, and we have already seen its impacts and had to pay for them. This will only get worse, as we know. This is not the time to strike down hard-won protections for the ecosystems that we live in. This is not the time to return to 20th century extraction that will wreak devastation on our land and communities. How can I tell my child that we have come up with solutions to the climate crisis but refuse to implement them? As you've already heard, the detrimental effects that fracking and uranium extraction can have on our health, and I ask the committee, the government, and the self-appointed Minister of Energy to consider what it would mean if their families were living next to this kind of extraction. To consider what would you trade? Would you trade your child's health for this? What kind of a cancer would you be okay with your kid getting in exchange for supposedly lucrative mining? I am concerned that this government is preparing to sell the province to wealthy foreign industry empires. It feels like they're doing this by making it harder for Nova Scotians to participate in the democratic processes that inform natural resource management decision-making, using unfair cuts to target artists and others who are able to effectively tell stories and speak out against these harmful decisions. So I've heard the premier's in Texas this week instead of being present for some of the few days the legislature sits, as the whole province is protesting his actions. Extractive industries are a short-term and incredibly detrimental way of looking at ways to bring revenue into the province. And you know what does bring revenue, as you've heard? Culture, the arts, Nova Scotia's beauty, the natural coastline, the forests and the lakes. And the $14 million in cuts to arts, culture and heritage programs across the province is such a small drop in the budget, one that could easily be negated if the government hadn't made the backwards thinking decision to remove the bridge tolls and lower the HST by 1%. As it is, these cuts are not what it's going to solve the Premier's self-made deficit problem, and yet it has such a huge impact, not only on the 22,000 people who work in or adjacent to the sector, but to our children. And Mr. Chair, this week I had the opportunity to present theatre workshops and performances for young children in your constituency, Colchester, Musquodoboit Valley. And how many fewer opportunities will these children have now with 100% cuts to artists and communities and artists in school programs? If you've heard, the arts is preventable healthcare. This will lessen the demands on the healthcare system. As a Nova Scotian, I'm ashamed and horrified at Tim Houston's behaviour. His goals and values do not reflect the goals and values of Nova Scotians, but are being implemented in such forms as this bill, the proposed budget, and his continual refusal to adhere to environmental protections and to target the arts. Please listen to the people speaking. We don't want to have to do this, but we will, because we need you to listen for our children and for all of our futures. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for your presentation, and thank you for your patience and your skill. We'll open the floor up now to questions from MLAs. Go ahead, Nina.
Thank you very much for that. So, taking into consideration what this FMA and the cuts in place under this government, do you? We've heard from a lot of government MLAs that they want to make sure that we have a Nova Scotia or a province where our kids don't have to leave for opportunities. Do you anticipate that if their vision comes to fruition with this FMA, that we are actually encouraging our children to stay in this province?
Oh, just hang on. Oh, sorry, okay. Mrs. Arturis McIsaac, go ahead.
Thank you. Actually, not Mrs., but
you got it.
yeah, I mean, I definitely believe that I want a future for my child in this province where they have access to arts and culture and heritage. We have a pass to we're so lucky, we live like right between the aquarium, the Maritime Museum, and all of the lovely things on the Commons. And to think that like museums will be cut, that culture and heritage will be cut, that these amounts are being reduced so much. And we do appreciate that that there was an investment earlier on, but it wasn't enough then to kind of make up for what hadn't happened before. And to have the cut now in the middle of everything with such sudden things, like I had applied to projects that then were told that, no, this program no longer exists, that you applied to in February, the Art Bank, for example. And for our children to have an opportunity to want to stay in the province when we're kind of really just not looking after the environment, when we're looking at all these extractive industries that really do have long-term effects on like cancer rates. My grandpa grew up in Sydney, and there was like 5 people in his family who all had the same kind of cancer because of the industry that was happening there, and I just don't want the same kind of thing to happen to my kid.
Thank you. Any further questions? Hearing none, thank you very much for your presentation today. We appreciate it. We appreciate you coming as well. And that you are the last witness today. So with that, we will adjourn the meeting, and we'll be meeting tomorrow at 9 o'clock again tomorrow. So we'll reconvene at 9 o'clock tomorrow. Meeting is adjourned.